What is your message to President Trump in that case?
Same thing. We're going to be on his ass. I mean, because right now we know that they were willing to try to throw the Clintons in prison for not showing up, yet they won't even allow us to bring other people into committee who we know are mentioned in these files and mentioned so much more.
And that is why our plea is to the American people. We need to hold these people accountable. And my message to Donald Trump is, we're coming for you. We are not moving on.
Reality.
And what is your message to President Trump in that case?
Same thing. We're going to be on his ass. I mean, I don't really know where we are in this country. Why are we even having this conversation? The United States is falling apart right now, partially because he's going out and randomly allowing for the killings of people in the middle of the street. But the other part of it is that we have a 34-count convicted felon, and there are people that are still shielding him from any type of accountability as it relates to a child sex trafficking ring. It is time to take the blinders off. Like, I don't understand why we are pretending like any of this is normal. And I think that that is the level of frustration that so many people are bringing, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, specifically to the Epstein file situation. Because right now we know that they were willing to try to throw the Clintons in prison for not showing up, yet they won't even allow us to bring other people into committee who we know are mentioned in these files and mentioned so much more. When we went through the hearing as relates to the Clintons, I said, listen, we know that Donald Trump's name is mentioned more. Bring him in too. Like, I'm not saying that this should be partisan. This should be whoever. I want to be clear about that. This, for the Democrats, this isn't partisanship. This is about right versus wrong.
What do you think?
I just want to say, with respect to the survivors, I spoke with a survivor this morning. Many of them are on Capitol Hill today at the Judiciary Committee hearing. And what I said to her is, what we need is for members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans, to show just a tiny bit of the courage that the survivors have shown. If we can find it, if our Republican colleagues can find just a little bit of courage when the survivors have demonstrated incredible courage throughout this ordeal, we can make progress and get the transparency they're asking for.
Can I just ask, the Epstein files could possibly bring down a British Prime Minister. Why do you think that is happening there, but it's hardly politically hurting an American president?
Well, I think it's important to note that right now the Congress is controlled by Donald Trump's allies. And our Speaker of this House preferred to keep the House of Representatives shut for more than 40 days so that we could not advance the Epstein Files Transparency Act. He is being actively shielded by members of his own party, whereas in other countries, including the UK, members of parliament are demanding accountability. And that is why our plea is to the American people. We need to hold these people accountable. And my message to Donald Trump is, we're coming for you. We are not moving on.
I'd like to ask you just a couple of things. First of all, about the demeanour of Ghislaine Maxwell. What did she say? How did she look? Can I also ask, we've heard from your committee before that you want to hear from the former Prince Andrew and from Peter Mandelson. Do you think there are questions for the broader British royal family, King Charles?
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell was once again unrepentant. She was very robotic, and she was not at all remorseful about pleading the fifth today. I think, again, this is all strategy for her to try to get a pardon from President Trump, and she has never shown any remorse for the victims in this entire case.
And the royal family.
So as it relates to that part, I think that we want to speak to anyone who has information. Now, again, being an attorney, it's been quite frustrating that the Department of Justice has continued to hold files against the law and against the subpoenas, right? But what you would normally do is you would start with the evidence. So it's a matter of us taking a look at the evidence and trying to see who it is that is involved in this very tangled web. I think that we should speak to anybody, even if that means that we go that high. Now, do I have any evidence to suggest that there's anything there at this moment? Not necessarily, but I do want to see everything, and I will be clear about this. When we had our large roundtable where we talked to so many survivors, they did say that this has impacted high levels of government across the world, not just in England. They talked about multiple other countries. And so for us, we want to follow this because for all I know, we know that Epstein is gone, but does it mean that the ring is gone? Because of the sophistication in the way that this was set up, we need to make sure that we're not only fortifying our democracy here, but we need to make sure that there's not some cabal that is operating currently and still engaging in this type of behavior. And I think that is why it's so important that these survivors have come forward in this moment, because we don't know that it's not continuing to go on right now. We just know that Epstein is gone. We know that Maxwell is gone. But it wasn't just the two of them. And I think that that is why it is important that we review those files. And anyone that we feel like is involved, based on the files, based on the evidence, we feel like they need to come forward and speak to us.
So we're going to take two more questions.
So Congressman Biggs came out and said that Maxwell's lawyer said that she had no indication that either President Trump or President Clinton were implicated in any wrongdoing. Wondering if you'd confirm that you heard that, but also how you evaluate that statement given some of the comments you're making about her clemency plea.
And we'll take your question and then we'll answer and wrap up.
I just wanted to ask what you all make of Congressman Comer's back and forth with the Clintons on closed-door tape deposition versus public testimony, and if you're worried that this might derail what's going on right now and lead Republicans back to pursuing contempt.
Yeah, on the Clintons and Trump, she did say that she is happy to talk on the record to confirm that there was no wrongdoing on their part. I think that is part of her campaign, again, to get a pardon and get support from both parties. That's why she's mentioning Clinton, too, as well. But they were very explicit on saying she'd love to talk on the record to absolve the Clintons and Trump.
I'd say about the back and forth part of things, Secretary Clinton made it clear. If you want to do this, let's do this out front and in the open, right? And it seems like they don't want that to happen, because what they want to do is they want to go behind closed doors and then come out with whatever spin that they want to put on it and have it be a he said, she said. I also do believe that this is yet another way of them trying to distract and hopefully trying to get Democrats to say, well, never mind, we don't want to talk about it if you're going to go after the Clintons. Again, for us, this is not about partisanship. This is right versus wrong. And frankly, we've not seen anything that would have made me believe that Secretary Clinton, of all people, should be coming in front of them in the first place. So this is about getting to the truth for us. And we understand that if there are names mentioned, that we should follow that evidence. But we do know that Comer is playing games, because if he really wanted to get to the bottom, you would start with the person that actually has the information, which would be Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is the first person that should have came in front of our committee to answer questions about why it is that she violated our subpoena. Instead, he's ignoring her violation. And then once we ended up with the Epstein Transparency Act, she has violated the law as it relates to that, and he still doesn't have anything to say. So I want people to be very clear-eyed. They are playing games right now, and this is all about shielding and distracting from the President of the United States, who is absolutely mentioned in those files. And frankly, we know that he had already been sued prior to him ever entering office, where there were allegations that he sexually molested a child.
This detailed report provides a comprehensive overview of a recent political commentary focusing on ongoing investigations into high-profile figures involved in serious allegations. The Speaker, a prominent advocate and legislator, emphasizes the relentless pursuit of accountability despite widespread efforts to obfuscate and derail the process. The message underscores the importance of transparency and the need for bipartisan cooperation in exposing truth and justice. The report begins by highlighting the current distraction tactics employed by those in power, suggesting that their actions are designed to shield key individuals from scrutiny. The Speaker explicitly mentions that certain files contain evidence linking the President of the United States to disturbing allegations, including sexual misconduct involving minors. This information is not new. It has been on the record for some time, yet efforts continue to suppress its dissemination. Central to the discussion are the survivors of abuse who have shown exceptional courage in coming forward. The Speaker notes that these survivors are actively participating in congressional hearings and are demanding transparency. They are described as standing at the forefront of the fight for justice, with lawmakers being urged to mirror their bravery by pushing forward despite political resistance. A significant part of the report addresses the ongoing investigations related to Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender whose network allegedly involved numerous high-ranking individuals. The speaker criticizes the political establishment's attempts to block the release and review of files related to Epstein, contrasting the apparent accountability efforts in other countries, such as the UK, where parliamentarians are actively demanding answers, with the apparent shielding of powerful figures in the U.S. Congress.
Congressman Massey and I went to the Department of Justice to read the unredacted Epstein files. We spent about 2 hours there, and we learned that 70 to 80% of the files are still redacted. In fact, there were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason. When Congressman Massey and I pointed this out to the Department of Justice, they acknowledged their mistake, and now they have revealed the identity of these 6 powerful men. These men are Salvatore Navora, Zorab Mikoladze, Leopig Leonor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World, and billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner, who was labeled as a co-conspirator by the FBI.
The focus then shifts to specific individuals involved in the case, including Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's associate, who appeared before investigators. Her demeanor was described as robotic and unrepentant, raising suspicions that her statements are part of a broader strategy to seek clemency or a pardon from influential figures like President Trump. The speaker expresses frustration that Maxwell has shown no remorse for her victims and suggests her silence is strategic. Further, the report discusses the difficulty in accessing evidence held by the Department of Justice, which has been accused of withholding crucial files and obstructing investigations through legal and procedural delays. The speaker advocates for a thorough review of all evidence, including interviewing individuals who might have pertinent information, regardless of their status or prominence. This approach aims to uncover any ongoing illicit activities and ensure that the entire network is brought to justice. The issue of political interference is emphasized, with accusations that certain lawmakers are intentionally obstructing progress to protect their allies. The speaker points out that figures like Pam Bondi, who previously violated subpoenas related to the Epstein case, have been overlooked, further undermining the integrity of the investigation. The narrative also addresses the broader international implications, noting that in the UK, members of Parliament are actively demanding accountability for their own high-profile scandals. This contrast underscores a perceived double standard in the US, where political shields are still in place for individuals mentioned in these damaging files.